Hey, Nina.
For folks who don't know me, I am Roy Group's Chief of Staff, and I'm here today with Roy Group founder and partner, Ian Chisholm. And we've had lots of questions from people in the last year or so as the manifestation of Ian's book has uh, become a reality, almost. The book will be on shelves in November. We're in the final stages of editing and getting things like a title sorted out. And so, knowing that the book is going to be a reality and we can talk about it, as a thing now, people have asked us some questions, and we thought this might be a good way for us to share some of the answers to those questions. And one of the questions that people have asked is, why did you need to write this book about mentorship?
That's such a good question. Where was that question 3 years ago? Yeah, I think the appetite comes from, I think it comes from inside, and then I think it comes from what you see happening in the world. And if those two things happen to line up, then you're like, I think I've got something that I want to say.
Mhm.
Um,
And you've
yeah,
written other things about mentorship. I mean, you've written blogs and, news pieces for magazines and these other smaller bits. There was a piece of research leading up to uh, the, the the sort of creation of the idea of this book. Uh, so why a book?
no, that was a big part of the process was, is this better to just start writing more often on Substack and have a collection of punchy little essays that in time could become a book. And so we looked at those options and we looked at raising our social media presence and just talking with people all the time. There was something for me that got in the way of like, I just don't want to add to the noise. I really don't. I say that all the time. Um, and so for me, a book, even though books are, one could argue, a bit of an anachronism, but I'm not sure that's true. There's all kinds of new trends that young people are actually loving to take a book to the top of a mountain where they don't need a battery and they can read it, powered by their granola bar, they can have that experience. So, yeah, a book for me is a way of making this thing, yeah, captured, permanent,
Mm-hmm.
a statement, and something that I think will be helpful for a long time.
Okay. And so, in addition to the person going up the mountain with their granola bar, who else
Yes?
did you write this book for?
Ah, uh, it sounds selfish. In many ways, I kind of wrote it for myself in that
I think that's
our,
honest. I think most
no, it
authors
is. Just,
have that component.
I had to get it out, but I'm also of an age and a generation, and I look sideways to the other people that are the same age as me.
Mhm.
We're Gen X. We've known from the start we were going to have to be a bridge between everything that came before us and whatever that represents, and this like really brave new world of technology and unpredictability, and we're kind of the ones, I don't know, it feels like we're in charge of kind of readying and steadying the next generation. And there's a lot of people my age that that's new to, even though if they told us stories like they did about who was a mentor to them,
Mhm.
right after they tell that story, the realization is, I'm the same age that that person was then. And it's kind of this light goes on that it's time for us to step up.
Mhm. Mhm. Which is not to say that all mentors need to be fabulous people in their 50s.
No,
But there is a bit of a coming of age
there
process
is.
around mentorship.
There's an appetite that starts to just we wonder if there's something else. We know how to drive, we know how to lead, we know how to work hard and hustle,
Mhm.
and we're looking around going like, there's something else that would make my life significant, that would create a bit of meaning in my community. And mentorship for a lot of people is the way that they would like to do that.
Mhm. I know that you think about mentorship a lot. You've been writing about mentorship for a couple of years. In the process of all of that thinking and writing, is there anything surprising that you have come to learn about mentorship?
Two things, kind of at different ends of the spectrum. One is that what we suspected turned out in the research to be true, in that there's something special when a person is ready to be a mentor and is able to kind of signal that to the world. That message is received very quickly. We did a piece around how did you recognize this person as a mentor, and the short answer was immediately.
I just knew it. Yeah.
I knew it soon after the moment I met this person that they were going to be in my corner, that they had time for me, they had attention for me, and that they had the skill set to invest in my experience as a leader. So that was kind of magical to actually see that in numbers, that there is something that we're obviously wired to send and pick up on.
There's a chemistry around it almost.
There's definitely a communication of I'm ready if you need me.
What was the other thing that you learned or that surprised you?
Just that opposed to my own experience of mentorship, which was, for the most part, very, very good, is that mentorship can be a power dynamic. It can be fraught with pitfalls. People are human. That means mentorship is always going to be flawed. And sometimes mentorship can get really twisted up and even rupture and end. And when people share those stories, it represents a loss. Like I trusted someone, and then that trust changed. And I heard lots of those stories, and yeah, it made me a little bit sad.
Yeah. And so this book then, for people who are wanting to step into the role of mentorship, what will this book help them with?
I think more than anything, it will give people the confidence to practice. And that will allow them to learn more from their experience of being a mentor, which in itself will give them even more confidence to practice. But I hope that the book can either initiate or kind of hasten that virtuous cycle of stepping up, give this your best shot, connect with this young person, like do it, like really, really step up for them and be a force. And then have that experience inform what they need to change going forward. I think if we can just get that cycle started or quickened somehow, experience
with a little bit of
way.
sense making as we go, right? With a little bit of
and talking with other people about what you've learned and what's working and what's not working, and to have it be a social thing rather than this one-to-one pairing that Eurocentric models have made mentorship this one-to-one relationship, and around the world it doesn't show up that way. That I think is super important, that it's more about one generation in community stepping up for the next generation of community, and setting that pattern so that they step up for the even next generation. That's if we could get that cycle moving across generations, that would be the ultimate.
Which removes some of that transactional component you talked about and roots it more firmly in community, which will give it more of a wholesome feel and also give it a greater chance at longevity and success, I would think.
And it's also for the individuals practicing mentorship, it's just way more fun when you do it with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Way more fun. It becomes this social fabric rather than a obligation.
Nice. We'll cover a lot of other questions as we record these little snippets in the weeks and months ahead. But the last question I want to ask you today, because it has come up and people have asked me this quite a few times. Now that this book is about ready to be birthed and introduced to the world, is there another book in you?
I won't say never, but right now I would say I really doubt it. Like,
fair.
I'm done, at least for a while. We'll see, maybe it's time to do some of that other writing that we questioned at the start, like Substack or more on social media or a collection of things. But yeah, right now, until something inside changes, this will be great to get this book on the shelves and just sit and look at it for a while.
Well, and as we've learned, a book is not just you sit down and write something and then you close the book on it and it exists in the world. There is a very lengthy process and all of these phases that are attached to it. So this book is going to be available to people in November, but there's still a lot of work between now and November that needs to happen. And hopefully once it lands on shelves, there's still a lot of life around the book to be explored.
No, it's been a big undertaking, and that makes me happy. And I'm also super happy that it's almost done.
Well, now that you're in this happy place, we'll continue to ask you some questions and share with folks the answers, because it has been a fascinating ride. And I think it's time that we share that with people a little bit. So thanks for doing this.
Okay, thanks, Nina.